there's nothing that is more universally loved and appreciated at these events than offering somebody, hey, you want a bottle of water?
All right, welcome to the Absolute Guard podcast, the podcast where we chronicle the past and present of the fighting game community and bring on various perspectives from Arizona. Y'all can find us on Twitch at twitch.tv/Spiral Series, YouTube at youtube.com/Spiral Series, and on Apple Podcasts and Spotify under the Absolute Guard. To all of you watching and listening, we appreciate all of you and that have liked and subscribed, and welcome any feedback that you may have. My name is John, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Benny, the guy that likes putting himself in the corner.
Hey man, that was a good time to. I thought that was a good time to put somebody in a mix-up, but
put yourself in the corner for the mix-up.
Hey, people don't expect it, so it happens. How's your week going, man?
Not too bad. I've been prepping for Evo mainly. I got some good sessions with Alex Myers. We're playing the mirror match a lot, and I've been picking up some Chun stuff. So that's been a really fun time. How about you? How's your week?
It's going pretty good. It's my Saturday today, so I got to get ready for go to work tomorrow. But other than that, things are going great. Can't really complain. We're a little bit earlier this week with the podcast just due to Evo, so
right.
Everything's going well. I look forward to doing this every week, so good times.
Very cool. What are we talking about today?
So today, there's a big event this weekend. I don't know if you've heard about it, the Evolution Evo series coming up for biggest fighting game tournament of the world. For those of you that don't know, it's happening in Las Vegas in the Mandalay Bay. Got every big fighting game you can think of: Street Fighter, Tekken, Guilty Gear. There's a lot of international people coming in for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's truly the world championships. That's whenever I go out in normal people land and get a haircut or something, everyone's asked, what are you going to Vegas for? I'm like, oh, it's the world fighting game championships. And they're like, oh, do people do that?
Yep.
And then I always say yeah, there's probably $200,000 on the line or something. And they're like, oh, they light up.
Yeah, I remember the first time I went, it was just people, my mom thought I was going to go play poker. She didn't understand the first time I was there, so she's like, I'm gonna go here and play this game, and she's like, yeah, you better watch out with that gambling. And I'm like, what are you talking about? But yeah, now she knows. I mean, I haven't been in years, but yeah.
Very cool. Well, do you want to go ahead and introduce our guests?
Yeah, so this week, this is episode 3, but for the first time, we are actually going to have 2 guests today, so this should be fun. We've got Mr. WillGetPaid and Shaundude from Tucson. They're going to be talking about Evo with us, and then also talking about Tekken. They just recently had a Tekken, or Tucson versus Phoenix Tekken 10v10, so we'll talk about that a little bit later. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing really cute. I'm doing swell. Thank you, John. Thank you, Benny.
Doing great, guys. Thanks for having us. It's exciting to talk about fighting games, especially Tekken.
Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, so just...
go ahead, Benny. Yeah.
I was going to say, so let's start with Shaundude first. Give us a little introduction into the gamer tag itself. Last week we talked to Rick, and Rick didn't really have a great story. It was literally he added dog to the end of his name. It was kind of a joke by a friend. So give us a little bit behind Shaundude, how that came about.
I don't know, man. That's since I was 4 years old or something. I swear, I think I was trying to sign up for Xbox Live or something. I was just couldn't think of a name, and I went to school and somebody yelled at me, "Hey, Sean, dude!"
So that was your first Xbox Live thing?
Yes, I was the original Shaundude. I got it. I did not have to be Shaundude 001 or Shaundude 02. XX Smoke Hole Shaundude Naruto fan XX, but with like the middle X's being capital and the outer X's being small.
What do you do if Shaundude's taken? What's your added suffix or prefix?
Oh, that's a nightmare scenario.
Yeah.
I had like I literally go down the numbers like, okay, well, I'm number 1, so I gotta be Shaundude 1, and then sometimes that's taken. Like, oh, I guess I'll be Shaundude 2. Or I won't go to Shaundude 2 because I'm not gonna relegate myself down below.
Yeah.
I'll be Shaundude 01 or Shaundude 001. I'll keep adding zeros. I don't care. Like I still gotta have that one right there, Shaundude 1. It's a classic name.
Nice. And how about you? We'll get paid. How did that get started?
I was at a tournament in Rochester where I went to school a long time ago, and I was actually trying to switch tags because a long time ago I used to be known as the General.
Whoa.
Yeah,
877.
that used to be my old tag. It came from like high school because I like led our stretches, so people were like,
nice,
saluting me and stuff or whatever, trying to be jokesters. But I was like, yeah, I need to change this. And my thoughts at the time were, well, I'm either going to be Scumbag Steve because I'm going to use the cheap stuff, or I'll do Will Get Paid because I play Balrog and that's his thing. Time to get paid. Come on, man.
Yeah. My
bike money classics. So I was like, yeah, Will Get Paid. I like it. And yeah, it's just stuck ever since, even to when I moved out here.
Nice. Man, I'm trying to think of all this and like just thinking of calling you the General like on stream. Or like referencing you as that now.
We'll Get Paid. Just got an excellent combo here. The General. Better call 877 General now.
Right.
People getting
it was
killed in
actually
insurance.
legal reasons because they have that guy, the General, on TV now.
Oh.
Fair enough. So Sean, when did you get started with fighting games?
I got started with fighting games with actually Street Fighter V was my first ever fighting game. I like played a little bit of Smash Brothers, just like goofing around with friends and stuff, and trying to get my For Glory online. I went to like 2 Smash locals here in Arizona. I don't know, maybe it's because I didn't have a beard yet or something, but I just wasn't feeling the scene so hot. So I was I saw some like old. My first exposure to like the actual FGC, I think, must have been the FGC like, salt videos of like great reactions. And I think it was like one of the videos where I saw John Guerrero and Nick kiss on stream at some tournament. And I was like, this is crazy. And then I get Street Fighter V and I start I walk into GameStops and like Bookman's like, hey, I'm trying to find like where offline video games happen. Does anybody know? Get directed to a YouTube page. Next thing I know, I'm driving out 35 minutes in the darkness out to Oro Valley to go to Nick Going's house. And I'm like barely 21 at the time, super small, no beard, and just knock on the door and like all these older guys like, oh, you play fighting games? I play Street Fighter. Come on in. And I just get my butt kicked absolutely all freaking night. And I just met up with those guys that, the Tucson Street Fighter V scene, which was pretty hot. We were hosting tournaments that Phoenix was coming down to. So
yeah,
that had a big point of pride that I eventually would call back later and, into being in Tekken and wanting to have like tournaments and have Phoenix come down to Tucson. But yeah, I got started with Street Fighter V. I wasn't very great at it, but I loved showing up and going to events and tournaments. Went to a couple majors, and then Tekken 7 came out, and something about the way that the game looked that was like more realistic, and the characters, and like also like nostalgia from remembering watching my dad play like Tekken 3 on PlayStation and seeing like the characters there. Like, let me give this a shot, and for some reason it just gelled with me, and I've been permanently converted to not just 3D fighter, but like a Tekken ultra fanboy. It's my favorite video game of all time, man. I'm a big fan.
Wow.
That's wonderful to hear that Tekken essentially is an intergenerational pastime for your family. That is That's a perspective that I don't think we've had on this show yet, because most of the people we've interviewed have been ancient in age. I hope Rick and Jeff are listening. Very cool. And then we'll get paid. When did you get started with fighting games?
Oh boy, it goes way back. I'll say I'm an older guy now. Now that I think about it, like it's kind of funny. I'm not like OG, but I am like kind of a Tekken OG. But I've been playing like fighting games for a while. John and Benny, I was part of the Street Fighter 4 scene.
Yep.
And before that, I played Street Fighter 4 in Rochester, like I said. I guess I'll just go in reverse. So at college, I played Street Fighter 4 and Melee. I was actually really big into Melee. One of my like accomplishments in that game, my roommate and I beat husband and wife, who were like a Peach and Marth duo, like really famous team. And like it came down to me and wife in the Peach mirror. Yes, I played Peach and Melee. And I won. So like that was fun. Also got beat up by all the other guys like HBox and all the like pros now. They were still good back then, turns out. Before that though, the first game I got into was like way back in high school. Soul Calibur 2, I was trying to like learn it. That was the first 3D game that I was really trying to learn to compete in. And there was a local tournament. And of course, when they had it, Soul Calibur 3 had just dropped. So nobody was playing 2 in tournament. And I had to play like my character in Soul Calibur 3. And that was my first experience of the way 3D games balance the characters, where in the next iteration, they can sometimes be very different, especially in Soul Calibur, because I played Yun Sung, and he was just way different in 3. And I was like, well, I don't want to compete in this. He's not like what I've been practicing for the past like 2 years this game has been out. So yeah, that's kind of where I started. A little story is my older brother, played Tekken 3 back in the day. So that was one of the reasons I was super into Tekken when it came out here.
Nice. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I feel like the older guy here, obviously, but yeah, hearing you guys talk about your brothers and your dads playing games back in the day, like that was me growing up. So like to hear you guys be like, yeah, I started in Street Fighter 5, I was just like, man.
Yeah, I don't
we're
like being a newbie. I can, it's been fun enough. I feel like it's proof that, fighting games don't have to be this big legacy thing, especially with people always saying like Tekken is such a legacy game. Like the people who have been playing are going to always have a leg up on, newcomers. And yeah, like the game itself is so similar enough mechanically from game to game that you can just pick up the next game, keep being good. But, I've never really like touched Tekken outside of like an arcade when I was like 13 years old, just like playing Eddie Gordo and mashing the little kicky buttons and like, oh, he's spinning. Oh!
Yeah.
And, to be able to like understand the game and play like at a pretty okay level, like it's, fighting games can welcome new players. And I hopefully that I could share some testament, or at least my story, that coming in fresh, I've just had such an amazing time. It's led to some of the best experiences of like traveling and doing all this stuff and hype and yelling and making goofy faces that I've been really appreciative for fighting games and Tekken specifically.
I had the opportunity of actually being at one of the tournaments that you first burst out onto the scene with, Sean, at Nick Going's place. And I didn't know who you were. And at that time I was pretty good buddies. I still am pretty good buddies with the Tucson folks. And so I kind of had a head count on like who to expect. And then what I've noticed when people join the scene is we're gamers, we're video gamers, and at least the stigma there is a lot of us aren't super social, we're quiet. It's a brand new. You drove 30 minutes in the middle of nowhere to Oro Valley. It's a little intimidating, but your like introduction, or like how I first saw you were just like life of the party, high energy. Going out and shaking everyone's hand. Good job, guys, that kind of stuff, and it was infectious, I think, is the best way to put it. I think that it really livened the event up a lot. There's also a little bit of like, who the hell is this guy? How much has changed? But
Oh,
was
yeah.
pretty cool.
I got a little bit of that. Definitely, some people, overwhelming positivity and high energy doesn't always gel with absolutely everybody. So I've had a couple of people giving me some side eyes at tournaments, but
Positivity doesn't work in the FGC, man. Doesn't work.
if they don't want to take this positivity, they can positively shove it, man. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be smiling all day.
Yep. Cool.
All right. Well, so that's pretty much I think our intro there, and I think one of the big things that we all have in common is that we have a tournament experience throughout a variety of different games, and there's no bigger tournament to talk about than Evo, which is happening this coming week, as Benny mentioned earlier in our intro.
Yep.
So we got a couple of questions for y'all, or just kind of just in general, like, do y'all have like a favorite memory of Evo or anything like that?
Well, actually, I was
yeah.
gonna say.
Oh, actually, go ahead, Benny.
Yeah, hold on one second. I was gonna say, if you guys could give us like, I mean, you started new, Sean. So if you can kind of give us like your kind of personal history with Evo, like when was your first Evo? I know you both aren't going. I'm not going this week either. It's just John. But we've got memories of Evo. We've got stuff we can talk about. So if you can kind of give us like just a little history of when your first Evo was, and I guess how many you've been to.
There we go.
Oh, be very short for me because I've only been to 2 Evos. 27. It was I believe 2017 or no 2018 and 2019. 2019 was the last Evo, right? So yes,
Yeah.
The last offline one.
the last offline. So I've only been to 2 Evos. I've been to I traveled a good chunk for different tournaments for like SoCal regionals to East Coast. Like I went to final round in Atlanta, combo breaker twice. A couple of others. Like I went to Hawaii for Tekken, which was super awesome. And but yes, my Evo experience is pretty short limited, and I'll let Steve tell you about his history. But my favorite Evo memory is actually with Steve, so that's a fun little story.
Okay, nice,
Yeah.
nice.
I
Okay, yeah, 'cause-
appreciate that.
Yeah. So what about you? What about you, Steve? Like, when was your first Evo, and like how many Evos have you been to?
I guess I'm getting a little along there in age. I think my first one was like 2016 or 2015. I'm trying to remember. It was like when I was in college. But I do remember I was at the Evo where they had the first demo kits for Tekken 7. Like it was the first Tekken 7 tournament.
Okay.
So yeah, it's like I don't remember the exact year because Tekken 7's been out for ages now. But I've been to about like 4 or 5 Evos. I just recall like the last like 3 or 4, like 2 or 3 or 4, because I remember like I was at the grand finals. I was on finals day. So the years that it's been in Mandalay Bay, just about everyone I've been at finals day. And yeah, no, there's a lot of like amazing memories. I met so many people at Evo, like that I would again, reconnect with over the years, and like just really amazing people. So yeah, love it.
Very cool. Benny, how about your personal history? Just go around the room.
Yeah, so my first Evo was actually 2011. I had visited here in 2010. So I got to meet a couple of people here, and then 2010 was probably watching that Evo was probably the catalyst for me coming to my first Evo, because I had a friend from Alaska. I think he's tied for 13th. Weirdo Neo. He was playing jury at the time.
Oh.
And then on top of that, Mike Ross doing really well, really kind of like pushed the hype up for me. So seeing him get 4th and go through that, going through the gauntlet that he did and do well with Honda really kind of pushed me to finally go in 2011. That was like my first actual like vacation by myself away from my family. And like I said, like, I was going to Vegas, and when I would tell people at that time, like, hey, I'm going to Vegas for gaming, like, yeah, my mom thought I was going to go play poker and go gamble. Other people were just like, yeah, what games are you playing? And they didn't know, they didn't know it was video games. But yeah, so 2011, that was my first one. Let me see, 2012. Yeah, I went to that one. That was like a last minute decision when I first moved here. We literally went for one day, and then we came back. Like, we just wanted to go out. Yeah, and then I had to stop going after 2017 when they moved things into August, just because my kids go to school in the middle of July, and it's always been a big family thing for us. So that kind of put a damper on things.
I get you.
Yeah. How about you, John?
I'm trying to remember. So my first Evo was 2010. It I'm gonna kill some other stuff here. 2010. I watched Evo in 2009 when Vanilla Street Fighter 4 was played,
Yeah.
and the thing that got me most interested in joining our local scene was seeing two of our locals perform really, really well on stream. Actually, it was just one. Now I think about it. It was Scott Saber, who his Sakura did a bunch of resets, and at that time that character wasn't well known as she was a console exclusive character, so it kind of got out that she was this secret hidden weapon, and Saber kind of showed her off and put the scene on the map, as well as Juicebox Abel, who was also a really strong competitor in that time period as well. So 2009 happens. 2010 happens, and Super Street Fighter 4 came out at that point, and so by then I was already a year into playing that game. It was my first major ever, I think. Yeah, that was my first major ever, and that was back when that was at Caesar's Palace, and back when the pools were 128 sized. So you were spending. I spent like 10 hours at my pool, even though I didn't even make it that far. I think I played a total of 2 matches, but that's just the way that the pools were arranged, and that was the way the tournament was run. Nowadays you have like smaller, like 20-person pools, and then top 3 I think qualify out. But back then it was like, you basically win you win a 128 man bracket, and that's it. And then if you get that, you get top 8. And I remember everybody freaking out over Dagger G being in my pool, who was a Hawaii native, to tie back to that Hawaii connection from earlier. Then I basically have gone to every Evo since then, barring one in 2017 or 2018. I had a medical issue at that time, but I had been to pretty much every one since then for the past 10 years now. I've seen it change over time. Like I wasn't around when in the early B2 and B3 tournaments, but I have seen it go from hotel ballroom to convention center to arena to all those different kind of changes, and I'm really excited to see what happens this year with the Combo Breaker folks behind the helm, and how that adapts to a Las Vegas ecosystem in 2022.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys got to say about that, because like I'm always interested in terms of like how things have changed, especially now. Like it's getting bigger, going into bigger spaces. I know some people they feel like it's somewhat kind of getting away from like the whole grassroots thing, as it was before. So definitely interested to see how that goes with the Combo Breaker folks behind that.
And I will be going to this Evo. We fly out on Thursday, and so I'll report back on the following show.
Nice.
Let us know how long you have to wait in line for a casual match, because that used to always be my biggest gripe. And with Combo Breaker, that's such a very much a non-issue. So
right.
Hopefully that's like the big change I want to see out of Evo.
I mean, a lot of things that a lot of the innovations that Combo Breaker made were in response to Evo, like the casual stations not having too big of a line or being too little. That was because of Evo, and because they started, cramming so many games into the tournament and whatnot. And my understanding is they have a dedicated BYOC area this time, and they have I don't think they have the 24-hour venue. I don't think you can do that in Vegas, but it seems like they're putting more emphasis on casuals this time.
Nice.
Yeah, you can't play video games past 9 p.m. You got to go out and gamble until 7 in the morning. That's
gotta fund
Vegas
the economy,
rules.
man.
Yeah, Vegas has to keep the lights on just like everyone else.
There's a lot of lights to
puts
keep
the lights on. We don't even.
Okay, so I mean, regardless of like how many Evos we've been to, I mean, we've got experience under our belt. We'll start with We'll Get Paid. Like, in terms of like going to Evo, what would be, I guess, your advice in terms of like, or any tips that you have for somebody that's going for the first time, or even people that are going back now?
Wow. For first time attendees, I would definitely say, bring a camera, like, use your phone camera and stuff, take photos, like, take in the experience. Cause like Evo really is an experience. There's obviously the tournament aspect. And if you're hyper focused on the tournament, first of all, good for you. That's good. I hope you've been training. And like, I would say when you get to Evo, like, don't worry about who you have to play. A lot of times when you get to Evo, the pools are kind of well designed, and there's like, you know, the killers in the pool, and then there's Joe Schmo from down the street. And generally, you know, you'll play a good even amount of that. Like you'll generally get a couple of people that have like just signed up for Tekken for the first time that year, and they just want to have fun. So if you're like a competitive player, generally you do have a bit of chance to like kind of get the nerves out. So don't worry about that. Just worry about your preparation. But as just a attendee, Evo goes by really quickly every time. Plan out like the parties you want to go to. Try to be smart about like when you go to sleep so you can get to your pool. 10 a.m. pools. Sorry guys, somebody's got to do it. Not me this year though. But you know, just plan it out and have fun. So 8 a.m. this year.
Yeah, they used to have 8 a.m.
Oh yeah.
I had 8 a.m. pools. I was the first match on stream because nobody else was showing up. I was the 8 a.m. launch Tekken 7. We got to like get Tekken 7 running on the stream. Shaundude and Elite Asian. Are you guys here? I've never heard of y'all. Get on stream.
Nice.
Oh yeah. And also make sure your equipment works. I did have a match where this is back when Brooks adapters were newer, and it turns out like my stick wasn't well insulated or something, or the power wasn't great back then, something weird. But basically there was a short during one of my like tournament matches, and I was playing this guy who, you know, he was pretty decent, but like he wasn't like a top player or anything, and we kind of had to like figure out what was going to happen. It was like in the middle of our match, and we're like, well, we got to replay this round. And then luckily I won that game, but it was just like, you don't want that kind of stuff to happen during your tournament run. So, you know, make sure your stuff works.
Yeah, I had a similar story about that, but I'll talk about that in a minute here. How about you, Sean, in terms of like newcomer tips, or just, you know, people going back? Like, what are some of the things that you learned, or you would advice that you'd give to people going to Evo?
Oh, I got some good tips here. What I do, I'm a little bit more privileged because I'm a pad player, so I don't have to carry around as much gear. But when I go to Evo, or any major, I always have this ritual where I have like my regular backpack that I fly in. I empty out all my luggage, and I put my controller in there, maybe a couple hand warmers, and maybe like 16 water bottles, like pack mule style. I will load my backpack up with water bottles because especially at Evo, you know, the last 2 years that Evo was at Vegas, finding water is hard. It's such a big convention floor, and you have to go, and the walls are so far away from each other. They're not going to have water stands in the middle, so you have to go all the way to the wall and find like the water fountain that has a huge line in it. But if you have, you know, what I always do is I just carry like a whole bunch of waters because one, I stay hydrated, and two, if you want to meet anybody, if you see like an idol, a Tekken idol, like, oh my gosh, that's my favorite Street Fighter player, or somebody sitting down in a set, and you want to like, you know, say like, hey, let me jump in or something. There's nothing that is more universally loved and appreciated at these events than offering somebody, hey, you want a bottle of water? Also, I'm like, let's play. You know, I'm down to play a little bit of Tekken, but you want a little bottle of water? And there's just been so many people that I like have a lot of respect for, and who get so busy and like competing that, you know, I give a little bottle of water, sit down, maybe have a couple minutes to chit chat with me, maybe play like a nice set, even give me some feedback. Like I've just met so many people, and it's just stemmed from like, hi, I'm Shaundude, do you want a bottle of water? It's
fascinating.
That's a really great tip. Nobody will ever
yeah.
turn down like a bottle of water.
That's an awesome icebreaker, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, who doesn't want one? Like, let me give him a little sippy. a little bit. And the bottle of water is, you know, big help. I also, if you like are playing and it always helps to be a little bit warmed up. And if you're a newer player, I know this is the same, whether you're at a major or you're just like at Timmy's house and he has like 7 people over to play like Street Fighter or Tekken. There's one setup. If you have your tournament coming up, you have your match coming up, then you need to like, it might feel a little uncomfortable, but you have to like step up and say, hey guys, can I get in? You know, what's this rotation looking like? How can I get in line? Can I play a couple? Because you might wait for, you know, 10, 15 minutes or something, but being able to just play a game just to feel yourself out, you know, is going to feel so much better. And so many like great memories that I have of, like in major tournaments just come from like sitting down to play some casuals match, and next thing you know, I am like running a casual station. My all-time favorite tournament like memory is actually from Combo Breaker this year, where that exact same thing happened, where I sit down to play some casuals, and next thing you know, I am running a station, and my girlfriend's at the next station right next to me. She sits down to play some casuals, and she kicks off like some big name players, and she's running the station, and we are sitting shoulder to shoulder looking at each other in between rounds as we just are kicking everybody off. And it's just what an amazing little moment. And that would have never happened if I just you see people all the time just sitting at like behind a casual station and just staring, and they don't say anything. You can read on their face they want to play, but since they don't speak up, they're never going to play. And so you just have to say, hey, there's nothing ever wrong with asking, can I get in? You never, like, maybe it's like some first to 10 for $200 and this guy's been talking trash online. You might not be able to get on, but there's no harm in asking. So always ask to play, carry water with you, tons of water. And that's my biggest advice for coming to majors, going to tournaments.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. That's actually good local advice too. I mean, the water here. I mean, we're in Arizona, so that's always a good thing. But the other thing is just like, speak up. That's one of the things when I see people walk into casual stations or casual sessions or whatever. There's people all the time that'll watch, and like, I get that same feeling, like they want to play, but it's like nobody knows that you want to play unless you say something like, "Who's got next?" You know what I mean? What's
Absolutely.
the rotation here? You want to play here, you got to say something, step up to the plate, and then like nobody's gonna get mad at you for wanting to jump in. So that's really good advice locally too.
Yeah.
So
you don't have to do it like a jerk either. Like, I'm next on this station. I got his ass. Like, we've been waiting, bro. You gotta sit behind us. Like, ask like, what's the rotation look like? Hey, can I get after you? Just walk up to one person. Can I get after you? And find out they're not even in line. Like, oh, well, that's one more person I'm in front of them.
Yeah, exactly. So how about you, John? You're going to Evo this week. Like, are there things that you're doing differently this year that you haven't done in the past? And what's your advice for like new people or returning players?
Yeah. So one thing I'm doing differently that I've never done before for this Evo is I'm flying instead of driving. So
it's bougie.
Yeah. Also,
Taylor
I'm signing
Swift of the
myself.
FGC.
Yeah.
I need to go to a tournament where I'm flying my private.
Flying in my private coach. So there's a lot of like airplane FGC stuff that's kind of relevant now. Like, I have this hitbox for the audio people. To describe, I'm holding my hitbox up, and a hitbox is a giant metal rectangle. So do you think this is going to get on a plane very easily and it's going to get past TSA because this looks like it could be used as a bomb? What a lot of people do is they actually have their stick opened up and ready to go in advance. The pad players luckily just get to get by and be like, oh yeah, I was just going to play video games at the hotel. But for these things, this is a custom looking stick. So it's like, I'm going to have it opened up, and so that way the TSA can see inside and realize that I'm not sneaking anything in.
That's interesting because I have an Itoki Omni, which like not a lot of 2D fighting game players use, but it's like a Korean style stick, and it's literally just a big. I mean, you've probably seen it before. It's a
big metal box,
slab. It's a slab of metal, and I haven't had too much trouble with TSA, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
Just put it in. They must know a lot of fighting game players.
Yeah, maybe that's.
Gotta thank the Koreans for flying in with their Itokis and their huge, like, Moss sticks and stuff. So TSA's like, we've seen it.
We're fortunate living in Arizona, where we're a 4-hour drive from Las Vegas, and so the majority of the Arizona FGC I think drives up. Another big difference this year is that we're coming back from 2 years of online, and so I can pretty much imagine everybody that's playing a fighting game right now is playing it on PC. So that's like Tekken, I believe, is superior on PC. Street Fighter V is superior on PC. I think the vast majority of fighting games that the FGC is playing right now perform better on PC. That means lower input lag, less stutters, that kind of stuff. So the training that I've had to do is to switch from playing on PC to playing on PS4, and so for the past couple of weeks I've been playing only on PS4, and it's been not a fun time. But even if I like for the folks that don't have access to a PS4 and don't have the ability to train in advance, always recommend going to the venue earlier rather than later. If you have a 10 a.m. pool, like that sucks, but if you can get there at 8, do that, because then you can play on the setups, you can run the stations like Sean mentioned, and you can get used to the timing and the environment, because the environment's also really loud, it's noisy, there's a lot of people moving back and forth, there's probably going to be people bumping into you, bumping your chair, there's probably going to be people who smell like ass, like being able to play through all that stuff.
The technical term.
Yes. So, and that's obviously that's another thing, is everybody please wear deodorant, do what you can. We've been locked up in our houses for 2 years playing online events, and so a lot of those social norms I think need to be reestablished. So that's kind of what I'm doing differently this year.
You mind if I chime in on that subject, John? Because I actually thought of something.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
So regarding like input lag and like going between PC and PS4, that's something that I was like considering a lot over this year. So one thing that Sonic Fox, I think it actually said a long time ago, and I never thought about it. It was, I don't know which game it was. Maybe it was Mortal Kombat. But a lot of training modes in modern fighting games have an input lag indicator, or it can simulate the input lag from online. So I've been experimenting in Tekken 7 at least, and I tell this to a lot of newer players that like are trying to get used to PS4, but they don't have PC, because I don't even have Tekken 7 on PS4. So I put it in training mode on the 4 bar instead of 5, which adds an artificial frame or two of delay. And I practice like my combos like that, and like literally everything, because that's just how the game feels. And there's still variables which make it really complicated. I don't know if you ever follow Arturo Sanchez on Twitter.
Yeah.
He's like the master of like, he makes like input lag like half a millisecond and stuff, do crazy stuff like that. But anyway, so that's what I've been doing to simulate like the PS4, since I don't have one. And it's actually really like helped like my confidence in doing like hard combos, because like I used to practice on PC, and then when I would go to tournament, I would be like, I can't do this combo. It's not the same. But then when I started practicing on the different input lags, I'm like more comfortable doing that. So yeah, that's something that could help. If you have like a laptop that you're bringing to Evo, maybe practice like that. So
got it.
I got you. No, that's awesome. That's actually, that makes me think about, because I don't know if there were games prior to it, but I think it was, I don't know if it was Marvel 3 or Ultimate Marvel 3 that actually had that in the training mode, was to like simulate lag. Like you could put it from whatever 1 to 5 bars. And like back in the day, I was just like, who would honestly do this unless you just had a laggy connection and you were just like, whatever, let me just practice in 2 bars, because this is what the environment I got to deal with. So the fact that you actually like do that in the real world training scenario now, it's just like, it's kind of crazy that it's come to that.
Yeah, because your whole mindset changes once you like experience that lag, because you're like, okay, so what if my combos don't work now? I'm gonna try to go for a different combo, and then I'm like, oh, but if I go for this different combo, I didn't practice this different combo, and then you mess that one up too, and you're playing in a tournament, and it's you're already stressed out, so it just kind of it dogpiles on itself. all the different factors there, they're really, really mess you up. So we're going to be hearing a lot about PS4 after Evo. I think a lot of people are going to use that as a reason for their defeats in some ways. There's going to be a lot of conversation about whether or not PC is viable, that kind of stuff. So sorry, what'd you say, Benny?
I said punk. He's always the one that starts that kind of stuff, and personally, I think it's kind of a bad look, but I get people get frustrated, especially they expect to do a certain play at a certain level, and when you got to deal with stuff like that too, like you said, I mean, it just adds to kind of the stress of the whole situation.
Sure. Why don't we switch to something positive though? So like one of like the thing about Evo that everyone remembers is like Evo moment 37, or like those other kinds of huge hype moments, like the Tokido Urian versus Justin match, or the Sonic Fox versus Goichi match and stuff like that. Do you all have a favorite match of all time at Evo? Sean, do you want to go first?
Ooh,
putting you on the spot.
Yeah, it could be any game. It doesn't have to be your favorite game. Any game, favorite
game.
match of all time.
Oh, what was that one Guilty Gear set where the guy thought he won? He threw his stick down and stood up and blocked the
Woshige
Oh,
versus
Woshige.
Ogawa. Yeah.
That was a funny moment. And then the game wasn't over. But I don't know, like it's so. I would have to say, like, especially with Tekken in mind, because there was a time I was watching Street Fighter, but I've kind of fallen, like, I'll peep it a little bit, but I'm really like kind of all in on the Tekken thing. If I ever need to show somebody who is wondering like what fighting games is about, like where's the excitement of it, like why do I travel for tournaments, I always show them the video or the clip of I think it was the last year of Evo or 2019 Evo with Lil Majin qualifying top 3 at for Tekken 7. And it was such a big event because traditionally Koreans have just run Tekken. They in Japanese too, they'll battle for supremacy, but there will always be like at Evo, like there's one American guy and he's like tied for 8th place or tied for 7th place, like just like the one American scrapper that's going so hard. But Lil Majin. Exactly, Sukin the year before, or like before that. But Lil Majin, he plays the most iconic, popular Tekken character, in my opinion, King, the Lucha Libre with the big jaguar mask on his face, and he's like a guy. He's such a cool guy. He's very positive. You catch him on his streams. He's all smiles and laughs and offers a lot of advice, but he also is a big fan of pro wrestling, so he plays it up when he's on stream. He'll like do some crazy mix up, and he'll look straight at the camera, like raise an eyebrow or something like that. And he's up against the previous champion of, I guess this must have been 2018. He's up against the previous year's Evo champion, JDCR. And everyone's like, it's JDCR. This guy's been winning back-to-back tournaments. He just is unstoppable. And it's just you can hear it even if you just listen to the commentary track, the way that you hear Eris and Markman, literally that their voices sound further away from the microphone because they're both standing up and they're both screaming at this amazing, like there's so many rounds that go to the very last second, so many tiny extreme details that are both amazing on like somebody who's really into Tekken and knows what's going on, as well as somebody who's never seen a fighting game before. I can just see this, Russian CQC master go up against this Lucha Libre star, and just it's heartwarming. It is so powerful seeing it. And at the very end, it's so incredibly close, but at the very end, you see the American champion just stand up, pump his fist in the air, and the entire crowd explodes. And I was there live, and I'll never forget that. Just hit so hard. It's like, yes, I picked the right game. Like, this is such a freaking cool moment. So that's got to be it for me. I don't mean to steal it from Steve if he also thinks that's his favorite moment, but that's a really good Evo moment, a really good Evo moment.
It turns out it is. Yeah. I was there too at Mandalay Bay when it was happening. The famous quote from Eris during that match, "Look at the time. Look at that. They're on Forgotten Realm. Look at the time." There was 10 seconds left on the clock, and they're in this stage with all these gimmicks, right? So there's trying to evaluate how he can come back, right? And what JDCR could do. And of course, I think in that particular round, JDCR managed to go through all the hoops to win with a second left because he's a machine. But the reason it was so intense is because, Lil Majin was walking on air during that top 8 because he came into it beating a really powerful Japanese player to get in, Aroma, and I was sitting behind him watching that set too. And then finals day, it was like a movie, man. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen. And Eris and Mark, man, are great commentator, great color and technical commentary. So there was all the stuff for the nerds like me of explaining why these situations were cool. But then you can just watch. Tekken is a very visceral, visual game, and if you've been to the Mandalay Bay during finals day, the audio just from the game is amazing, and Tekken has amazing audio design. So amplifying that on speakers, it's crazy. And that's before you add the crowd. The crowd was truly amazing. I was sitting on some lawn chair in front of the
you had
stage.
Floor seats.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, I had floor seats. And just hearing the surround sound of the crowd was it was crazy. But yeah, that was pretty much same match for me.
There's always that moment where like you see a player that's just, you know, they're already high level, but then they're just playing a level beyond that weekend. Like they're hot that weekend, and you can be like, this person might win the tournament. Like they might win the whole thing, right? Like, and I imagine that's what you got out of seeing Little Majin play both the day before and the day of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah, seeing Tekken players like start to peak is really special because there's just so many pitfalls that can happen, and they just jump over all of them, and then like they're so focused on their goals or their strategies that you just see them like ticking off boxes and really starting to get going. It's crazy. You don't see it every day.
Benny, how about you? Favorite match?
Favorite match? I think I would have to go back to 2010. That there's a couple matches from there. Like I said, the one involving my friend, that one had a pretty profound impact on me. But I would have to go definitely with the Micros versus GamerB that year. One, like, I don't know if people remember. I mean, I think it kind of stuck out of like a sore thumb. Was they had Adam Sessler from, I don't know what he was from before.
X-Play.
TV.
X-Play. That's what it was called.
X-Play.
Yeah, he was commentating during that, and you could obviously tell like he didn't have, you know, the game knowledge to go with it, right? He was there as a personality, and people knew who he was, but you know, he's not a FGC commentator per se. And I just remember that particular match. Like I said, like watching Micros go through the finals day or up to top 8, and then getting into that match with GamerB. And I remember I think it ended, if I remember right, he ended it with like a hands FADC into Ultra 2, and that was when it was 0 frame. And I just remember seeing that because I'm not super heavy on execution, so to see him do that in that moment, you know, on the grandest stage of all, you know, I was just like, that just kind of like, you know, I was standing up in my room wherever I was watching, and I was just going nuts because I was just like, man, this guy just pulled off like the craziest thing that I've ever seen a Honda player do, you know, on the Evo stage. And that really kind of just hyped me up, propelled me to like wanting to go, because I was like, I need to go, you know, see this in person. And yeah, that was probably the biggest match for me, my favorite match of all time.
To add some context to that too, like I mentioned earlier, 2010 was my first Evo, and that was the year that GamerB and his Adon showed up as like the spoiler dark horse of the tournament, where nobody knew where he came from. Like he came from a different place in Asia besides Japan, so that was a huge deal already. He came up with Adon, who he had received press that Adon had received like a bad rep as not being very good, and GamerB just showed up and washed a ton of people. He washed Justin Wong in particular, and I remember being in the crowd for that and being like, oh man, who is this guy? And everybody around was asking, who is this guy? So like that like unknown dark horse force, like running up against Mike Ross. That was magic.
I mean, you know, and Mike Ross, I mean, to me, he's the people's champ. Like he's the guy that people will root for. He's the underdog. It doesn't matter who he's playing against. Like, you know, you mentioned Mike Ross, and people are just like, you know, I'm rooting for that guy. So, you know, him being a Honda player on top of that, that just solidified everything for me from there.
Very cool.
Yeah. So what about you, John?
Favorite match of all time is a tie. I don't want to. Let me just pick one. Street Fighter V Season 2, so 2017. Tokido versus. Everybody talks about Tokido versus Punk, which is a stellar match on its own. But I actually put Tokido versus Filipino Champ as my favorite Street Fighter V match. And the storyline there is that Tokido. He had never won a Street Fighter championship ever, or not for the modern era. So for 4, he was always like a top player in 4. There are times when he would miss top 8, but like one of the more recent times he had gotten second, and he had lost to Infiltration. And so I remember seeing, like, walking past Tokido and seeing like he plays top 8 in Guilty Gear. He plays top 8 in KOF. I think he even played Tekken. Like
he was a Tekken champion.
He had a ton of medals. He had a ton of medals just like draped all over him, but he was missing the Street Fighter one. And so my friend was like, "Hey, Tokido, congrats this weekend!" And the guy just looked sad because he had just lost the Street Fighter one, which is I think the one that meant the most to him. So
Yeah.
going into Street Fighter 5, he had done really well, but he didn't make top 8 in the first year of Street Fighter 5. So second year, his main comes out, Akuma, and that character had a reputation for being not very good as well. And then he gets paired up against Filipino champion losers, and that's a terrible matchup. Dalsum is really strong against Shotos in that version of the game, and Tokido just busts out all this really unknown tech, like being able to parry a view reversal from Dalsum, being able to catch a bunch of teleports with option selects and whatnot, and he pulls it back from the brink multiple times, and then that kicks off this entire top 8 run where he's the underdog in every single match and ultimately goes on to win the whole tournament. So that would be my absolute favorite one, with the storyline and the tech, and just brilliant match.
Nice. Yeah. So, well, those are like your favorite matches of all time. So, what about in terms of like something that you were personally involved in? So, let's start with you. We'll get paid. Yeah, give us a story in terms of like something that you were personally involved in, whether it's a money match, whether it's a pool match, or anything like that. Give us I don't know, maybe we have a few, but yeah, let's start with one first.
Okay. So like, yeah, a match that I was involved in that I was really proud of. I'll go with, I believe it was Evo 2018, I want to say. I made it out of my pool and I got to play on stage against Cody Vu. And Cody is like this really sick, like Mishima player from Florida, right? Like OG, he's won, majors, like back in Tag 2, especially like he won a major with his team, and execution monster. Like people that play Mishimas at like that level, you just have to have really nasty execution. So like just really fun to play. And I got to play against him on stream, and the great part was just like I was talking to him, like kind of we were sitting, before we were playing, and I was just talking to him, and like I'd never really met him before, but I was obviously a fan, and I was just like, yeah, man. I was telling him because this is when Evo had switched to August, I think, like you had said, Benny, and like I said, tomorrow is my birthday, so generally the past like 2 year or a couple of years ago that I was at Evo, it was always my birthday weekend. So I was like talking to Cody, and I'm like, yeah, man, I'm going to go see a show tonight. I want to go see Stevie Wonder play for my birthday. And he's like, oh, I'm like, cool, because we're about to play or whatever, but just yucking it up with him. And then we go and play. And like, this is season like 2 of Tekken 7. So my character, like Steve Fox, he was great. Like I was getting away with like murder, I'm sure. It was really funny because like as I was learning the game, I was learning just how cheap my character is. Like he's just really good especially at Tekken 7. He's just designed really well. So we had a really great match. Like Cody played Devil Jin against my Steve, and that's the other thing is like Steve is this weird thing where he's a strong character to begin with, but he just happens to be excellent counter to Mishimas, like who are like the Ryu, if you want to say, of the game. Like they're the main characters, and Cody plays all of them, but my character counters all of them. So like I brought it back from the brink though. Like he's a much stronger player than I am, especially at that time. But it was funny. We got the best possible stage for his character, Forgotten Realm, and he's playing Devil Jin. So like literally everything he hits me with turns into a combo in that stage, whereas normally it doesn't. But I bring it back from the brink and like win my first game against him. And yeah, it was just like an amazing feeling because I had the whole Arizona like crew behind me, like Tekken, people I knew from Street Fighter. I could hear them like, in my ear cups, and it was like an amazing feeling. So the next game, Cody, he switched character. I think he switched characters, so he couldn't pick stage. He switched to Kazuya, which like I would say that is also like very heartening because it's like when you make your opponent, like someone that's that strong, change their character, you're like, man, like I actually am like playing well. But like credit to him, he made some really sick adaptations during that game, the second game. And one part I'll never forget when I kind of was like, "Oh, I'm screwed." Is I was doing a punish on his move, and I can combo into a movement that leaves me like extremely advantageous. I like duck in his face after I punish him, and I have all of these options, and I'm so plus that I should be able to do whatever I want. But there is like slight counters to that, and of course, Cody does the perfect one because I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to do the safe mid at plus frames. There's no way that he can really deal with this." And he's like, "Nope, I can sidestep it this way." And I learned that in the match, and he like destroyed me for doing that. And I was like, wow, like that's the funny thing about Tekken. Like, man, I thought this was so safe, and he murdered me for it. And I was just like, it kind of puts that stupid grin on your face of like,
Yeah.
gonna learn today. Like, you're gonna learn something eventually. So unfortunately, that started my or continued my streak of doing really well on stream against top players, but not winning. But it was still a hype match, so I will take that. So that was probably my favorite, tournament memory as far as like majors and such.
Whenever your favorite memory is a loss, it's always like you can't even be mad about the loss. You're just like, oh man, I got my shit kicked in, but it was so cool, right?
Yeah,
I get you. Very cool.
So what about you, Sean?
Oh, me? Well, my favorite Evo memory is something that I've always like kind of heard about getting ready for Evos. Like, oh yeah, so the playing at the venues might not be very reliable because there's big lines and the venue closes. So if you really like want to be able to play the game, then you're gonna have to you gotta like know somebody or something and find yourself into some salty suite, some room. And my first year that I went, I was like too shy, a little nervous, I knew I was like really bad, and so I just like didn't seek it out. I just kind of like, okay, I guess I'll enjoy Las Vegas as somebody who doesn't really drink or gamble, just walk around in the heat. So, but the second year I was like really active about it. I was like, okay, I have this abandoned Twitter. I'm gonna start like using Twitter. I'm gonna start trying to find somebody. And luckily I'm like walking around trying to find people like carrying sticks, like carrying specifically like Japanese arcade like Japanese levers, because those are the Tekken players. So I can maybe talk to them, find some sort of way. And I'm walking around, and I happen to meet friend of Arizona Tekken scene, as well as big, huge help for ICFC streams, Tan Man, who used to live in Arizona, now lives in California, and he helps with the big weekly online ICFC Intercontinental Fight Club tournaments. He's like the producer on those. And I'm like, yo, Tan Man, what's going on, man? I'm trying to find some, a salty sweep. I'm trying to get some games, trying to get some money matches. Like, have you heard of anything? And he goes, oh, well, I kind of heard of this one room in the Lexor. I don't really know who's playing there. I think it's like some scrubs or whatever. But if you're just looking to play some games, you can go up and play. Like, oh, sweet, hell yeah, I got my pad. It's like 1, 2 in the morning, and we're walking through the hotel floor. And as we're walking, I see Steve like walking back from somewhere. I'm like, yo, Steve, what are you up to right now? And I say like, hey man, Tan Man's gonna take me to a Tekken salty suite. You want to come with me? So he's like, I don't have my stick, but I'll come with you. And he's like, who's playing? Like, oh, he said like a couple of scrubs. So, it might just be some fun. We get some money matches, do whatever. We go through a whole bunch of different hallways and elevators and zim zam. I have to conquer my fear of escalators. And we open the door, walk into this room, and we see like a full stream setup and like a bunch of like on one side of the room, a bunch of Korean people and like a bunch of Americans. And we see on the table at the end on a head-to-head setup is Cuddlecore, one of the top players in America, hands down, versus a Korean player who goes by Bots, who at the time everybody undoubtedly knew him as he's the best Hwarong player, period. He's the best at this character. He is like the Korean legend. He's the best. And they're doing this intense streamed money match. And we walk in, and you can like look on the VOD as we walk in the door and we go, You said there was going to be scrubs. Let's just get it. And we scoot out of the way. And it's this big suite, like this 2-room suite. They're playing their money match, and it's like Steve is sitting down and watching them play, and the money match finishes, and Steve gets to sit down. I don't know how you did it, but you managed to like borrow somebody's stick and you played a money match with bots. And I go into the next room over, and there's like Jay Chantra and a whole bunch of people from like the Texas scene and the Midwest scene. And I just start playing money matches, and I just start winning $20, $20, $20, kick somebody off the setup, $20, $20, $20. And like the setup that I was in the bathroom. They had set up the monitor on the sinks, and there was no chairs. You just had to sit on the edge of the toilet, like either on the toilet or the edge of the bathtub. And so I was sitting there on the edge of the bathtub, play a first to 3 for $20. Hey man, GG's, you lost to season 2 Katarina. You know, you gotta go learn something. Hey, do me a favor, send the next guy in. And like there just kept being new faces. And Steve tells me like, oh, I played my money match, I lost, but it was awesome. And I'm just sitting there like, man, I'm 5 sets in, I'm up $100, and I'm gonna be here for a while. And I sat in that hotel room from like 2 a.m. till about 5:30 in the morning, nonstop playing money matches on without leaving that the edge of the bathtub, with like the challenger seat of the toilet being right there. And at one point, as I started winning money matches, people started leaving. I would flush the toilet. Just like, all right, let's keep playing, baby. I made like 300. I made like 100. I think must have been like 180, 200, around 200 something bucks just from playing money matches in that room. And it was so awesome. Like, and I walk back to my hotel room at like 5:30 in the morning when there's like so few people out on the floor, just like some decrepit husks on like slot machines looking over. And I'm walking out all jovial, all happy. Yay! You know, it was, that was definitely my Evo moment. It was after like, you know, I had not the best performance. Like after I made it out of pools, could have thought I could have beat some people. I didn't, but that just brought me around like this game, this scenario, this setup, this community, this culture. I'm about it, man. Get me into it. And, you know, it kind of jump started my money match addiction as like I became, you know, one of those guys that like, oh, I might not have a name, but I go to tournament and I just looking like, hey, who think they're nice? Money match? Hey, you want to, we're playing cash? Well, how you like $5?
Do you give them a water bottle too?
Yeah, always. If you offer somebody the water bottle first, like, hey man, you want a bottle of water? Thanks. Hey, make it a little interesting. You want to pay for like $20 or something? Like, all right, cool. And I got like a repertoire.
That's the hustle. That's the hustle. That's
Absolutely.
how
You want to
in.
hear about hustle? So this is a funny one. This was 2 tournaments apart. So like at Combo Breaker, I was playing Fred Distance. Like we did a money match or whatever, and he played a lot of top tier, like we call them like top row Tekken characters, like the DLCs. But like he played like Julia and Geese against me, and he beat me a Combo Breaker, and it was pretty convincing. I just like I couldn't beat him, but I think I lost like I don't know $40 or something like that. But I think I was just like Combo Breaker. That Combo Breaker just like wasn't like a great event for me in general. I just didn't do very well. But I was like, I want to get this back. And, you know, he's always down to do money matches. So later on that year, we went to a different tournament. It was Victor and I. It was something in NorCal. I forget if it was like, it was like a strong style or something. But I met up with him again, and I was like, money match? And he said, sure, thinking it was going to be easy. But by then, I had been like playing a lot of those matchups. And I just remember I had won like $80 off of him by the time it was done, because again, I had beaten his like Julia, and then he switched characters, and so that's always a good sign. Like I said, he switched to like Dragunov or something, and then I beat his Dragunov, and then he switched to Geese, and I'm pretty sure that was his like, all right, I'm serious, I'm using Geese, who's really good. But I had so much practice in that matchup from Swagoo, who's like our local player, and he plays Geese a lot, that I was like, oh man, you messed up.
That must have
I
felt
ran his
so
pockets.
I was there with you at Combo Breaker when because we both played Fred Distance in back-to-back money matches, and after you got off, I would get on and he beat me. And the thing about this guy, he is a serial taunter, man. In the middle of every single round, his character Julia is like one of the only characters that has more than one taunt, and so he'll be going like, hey, hey, like every time he knocks you out, hey, whoop, hey, whoop. It's like so frustrating because she can cancel her taunts and just like block or do whatever she wants. So the taunts, you just have to hold. You just have to not let it affect you.
Yeah.
And I know like it was making me bubble over. I could see Steve like we both getting rocked like fucking Fred, man. But to hear that you got him back in NorCal,
Oh, I got him back.
that feels so freaking good. Yeah, I guess we both have like big names on our money match hit list. You with Fred, and I have my Chronicles with big money match entrepreneur Poke Chop from ATL. That that's a
Sean and Poke Chop have a storied money match history, and I've witnessed most of it.
and probably one time where somebody threatened to stab me.
Right, he almost didn't make it out of one of them, but luckily we got him out of that. We navigated that situation well.
Oh, it was just a drunk guy, but man, that was final rounds. Final rounds, great. Final rounds, excellent. Go to the Tekken house. Meet up with Mike ATL and Clint the Beast, and at least some fun stories.
Yeah.
So if I had to guess, money matches are a huge moment in any major, not just Evo. That's a huge like favorite story, I think, for a lot of folks, right?
Absolutely.
I will say the other thing about that story Sean was talking about back at Evo.
Yeah.
Two funny things that happened. So yeah, I'll start with the first one, which is actually hilarious. I was just talking to my boy that I had met. He was from NorCal. And it was super awesome because he was like giving me the scoop on how to beat this character I was having trouble with, Miguel. And this is like way back. He's like, yeah, you just gotta like step him left and duck, and like he's dead. Like you can't do anything. Like, oh, okay. And so we're like yucking it up. But remember, there's like an intense money match going on next to us, and one of the players was a little frustrated because I was like being a little too jovial when I was talking to him. And so he had mentioned it after the match. He was really polite about it. He's just like, oh man, I kind of wish it was a little quieter. And I heard him, and I was like, oops, like, sorry. It's a very small room, my fault. But the other part of that is, I played bots, who's, as Sean said, is he was like the best forearm player at the time in the world, still one of the top forearm players. And I just remember I didn't have my sticks, so someone was gracious enough. They had a golden lever Itoki, and I was like, oh, like this is like my stick. Do you mind if I borrow it? Because I had a couple of drinks or something, so I was like, yeah, let me challenge the best forearm player in the world to a money match. And I actually took a couple games off of him, and Bots himself was like, he said, good Steve. And like that was actually one of my like happiest moments. I was like, oh man, maybe he's just being polite, but he's like, he told me that was good. I was like, that's some good validation, all the years you've been playing. So that was a fun money match.
That's the other commonality I hear between both your stories is that like you get validation that I'm pretty nice at this game. Like whether it's Sean running the station and taking everyone's money, or Steven like fighting foreigners and getting foreign praise. No,
Steve and I have a great, I don't know if you want to start moving away from Evo and start talking about like local Tekken, but Steve and I have like a pretty good storied history of just our personal growth in Tekken 7 and like our eternal rivalry in tournaments here. Because it's always been, for a while at the beginning when we were like both coming up, we were cracking top threes, but we weren't like the top dogs or so.
Yeah.
But
I'm super interested in the story. Why don't we get to that one as soon as we're done talking about Evo here? Benny, how about we wrap up this question and ask like, what's your favorite story?
I forgot we didn't ask Benny. Sorry, Benny.
Well, I guess I got a couple. I mean, for those that don't know, I did actually play Daigo on stream. That was in 2014. And I remember, leading up to, I think I'll make this one short because that wasn't a good match other than, I won a round. Otherwise, I basically got almost double perfected. But, just leading up to that, it was, I looked at the bracket, I saw Daigo's name in there, and, I started looking at the other people that I was going to play. And if I'm not mistaken, this goes back to your thing about like the Evo tips, Steve, in terms of getting your equipment ready. The first match that I had to play was a pad player, and he was trying to get his stuff set up. His pad wasn't working, so he had to tell the pool, the bracket judge or whatever. He's like, "Hey, I gotta go get my my backup controller." And he's like, "Oh, where's that at?" And he goes, "Oh, it's at the other hotel across the street or something." And I'm just thinking to myself, it's just like, you're walking into the venue for the biggest fighting game tournament in the world, and you left your backup controller. Like, you play pad, like you're not carrying a stick. You're not, you don't need another backpack, right? Like, you're playing pad, and you left your extra pad in your hotel room across the street, and like he never came back. So they had to DQ him, and I was just like, whatever. I was like, that's your own loss. But I just remember like leading up to the Daigo match, I was a little nervous, more nervous playing the guy before him because it was just more of the realization like that if I didn't beat this guy, this was probably my chance to play Daigo and potentially on stream, because at the time, like, I was looking at it, it would have been like the third round in the bracket. By that time, they're starting to look for those matches for stream, and I was like, if I don't beat this guy, like, I'm probably going to lose out on the chance to play Daigo, because more than likely he's not going to losers to meet me there. So yeah, I just remember the guy that I played, he was like a Ken player from like, I think Seattle or something. Some of my friends from Alaska actually recognize his name like when they went to like Northwest majors. So that, yeah, leading up to that, and then like I said, the Daigo match itself, it was kind of like his return. People weren't, they were looking forward to it. I got bodied hard other than that one round, but besides that, I would say my favorite match, or my favorite personally involved situation, was back at my first Evo in 2011. So to set the stage here, basically from Alaska, there was about 25 of us, I think, that flew down for that Evo, and our two top players at the time, well, pretty much the whole tenure that for our scene was Weirdo Neo and Shinji, who was a Viper Sagat player. And so I got word that, I was hanging out with my friends, everybody. I got word that we were going to play the Utah scene. So at the time, that's when 801 Strider and iPeru were making a name for themselves. They Able and Forte players. So they were making a name for themselves. We go up to their room, and I think we were having trouble, or my friends were having trouble getting in contact with Neo and Shinji. So there was a lot of questions like, are we still going to play this without the top two players for our scene? And even Strider was, are you guys sure you guys want to play? It's one of those things like, are you sure you guys want to play, even though we're probably gonna beat you guys? But we decided to run with it, and we played. I think we played. I think we ended up like they won 5-2, 5-3. I won. I was one of the people that won my match against a Cody player. And then the other thing that I remember was iPeru at the time. My friend who was playing Fei Long beat him in his match with a Wake Up Ultra, and iPeru was so salty. Like, he didn't even want to shake his hand. Like, my friend put his hand out, and he was just like, he looked at him, he was like, I don't respect that. And I was just like, yeah. I was like, whatever. I was like, yeah, you're a Forte player. And then it was funny, like years later, I was watching, I think he played Daigo, and he did a Wake Up Ultra. And I remember we were all just chatting amongst ourselves, like, hey, we don't respect that. But anyways, like, so after that set was done, right, I had won my match in the 5v5 against that Cody player. And I guess it was his birthday that weekend, because afterwards, Strider was just like, hey, happy birthday, bro. This win was for you. They're all hamming it up because they won. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then this Cody player was like, I want to play that Panda. So this was my first introduction into my first money match. And I'm just like, okay, well, let's run the set. I don't remember if we played a first to 3 or first to 5, but I was pretty confident. I'd beat him in the 5v5, and then I was, once I kind of got like a game or two under my belt, like, I was feeling myself. Like, I was hitting them with all kinds of shenanigans and stuff like that. Like, I did the Honda jab headbutt, and then he would, people would naturally like throw a fireball, and then I ultra through that, and I just remember hearing my friends in the background just being all hyped up and just clapping for me and everything. And then finally, when our set was done, I remember he took his stick, and there's a coffee table or whatever in front of us. He threw it under the coffee table, and he stormed out of the room, slammed the door, and I guess he was gonna smoke or something. And then like his buddy, the other Utah guys were like motioning to his girlfriend, hey, you should go follow him, go check on him. And I was just like, yeah, you're gonna call me out? And it's like, yeah. And then I just beat you in front of all your boys and on your birthday. I was like, yeah. I was like, that was definitely like the best moment that I've had, for sure.
Cool.
You were that guy.
Hard to beat the birthday buff. That I've seen tournaments get one with that birthday buff.
Yeah.
If I could squeeze in my story before we move on to talking about Arizona Tekken and the 10v10.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a match. I have got a lot of like good memories in matches, and the Arizona scene being very supportive of that. So those are definitely honorable mentions. But this was probably in 2015. It was when Evo was at the Las Vegas hotel, so it wasn't on the Strip yet. I was playing Marvel mainly at that time, Marvel 3, and we had a really good relationship with the San Diego fighting game community. So they had their own suite. And, you know, a lot of top Marvel players were there in that suite. I think Ryan LV was there, Neo was there, Filipino Champ was there. Actually, I don't know if Neo and Filipino Champ were there. There were a fair amount of them, though. And just in general, the San Diego folks are just super cool to hang out with.
Yeah.
So we get there, and this was one of the larger suites, and we were making a lot of noise because there was a big match with Ryan LV and I forget who else it was, but we were making a ton of noise. And the next thing you know, we hear this really loud knocking on the suite door. And this is this is a really fancy suite, so there's big double doors. This really loud knocking happens, and my buddy Ryan, who's the head of the San Diego FGC at that time, goes and answers it and says, like, you know, this is big intimidating dude. And so we're like, oh shit, we're gonna get told to quiet down, or they're gonna disband the room or something. And you know, Ryan talks with the guy, and suddenly he's like, I don't know what's going on. And this smaller dude like pops up from behind the big tall dude, and he's just like talking a bunch of shit about the room, because he's like, oh, are you guys partying here? Like, where's the party? You know, where are all the women? And he was asking that kind of question, just giving us shit about being nerds and stuff. And we're like, who the fuck is this guy? He's got his own entourage and stuff like that. And so my buddy Ryan just says, get the fuck out of here. He slams the door on them and everything. We find out that was Rod Stewart. Rod Stewart was performing at the Las Vegas Hilton, and he was looking around trying to party and probably get some drugs or something, because he was definitely just out of his mind on something. And actually, while we were going through this, I found the picture that we took of him before we kicked him out. And I could actually show that to you right now. Here, let me see if I got that.
That's so crazy.
So you kicked Rod Stewart out of your hotel room?
Yeah,
or out of their suite?
Most of the credit goes to Ryan from the San Diego FGC. For the folks on that are listening audio only, I put a big picture of Rod Stewart up, and you could tell he's drunk out of his mind. Or he's on something or whatever. But we were just like,
that's awesome, dude.
We just kicked Rod Stewart out of our room, and he was being a little shit.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you said 2015, because I remember, was it 2015? That was the last year for Street Fighter 4, right? 2015.
It might have been 2014 then. It was the year after or before Ultra came out. And I remember, because I remember I went back to play Ultra at that time, but I think I was all in on Marvel at that time. So 2014 or 2015 or so.
I gotcha. No, it just made me remember, because my because whenever my Alaska friends, they go down to Evo, they always want to play the other scenes, 5v5s, whatever, sure. SoCal, NorCal, whatever. And I remember being in a big suite with the San Diego guys. And for those of you that don't know, one of the big guys in the San Diego scene at the time was Vicious. The commentator who was involved in Street Fighter 6. And I remember, he's a very vocal, like trash talky type player. But he was like the coolest dude at the same time. So like, I'm not at all surprised like he's gotten his footing into the scene with commentary, because he was, during the money matches and stuff, he would always be talking, the whole time. So it's just like, that just made me think of that, which is pretty cool.
Very cool. Well, I think we've got a lot of Evo talk out of the way here, and then there's plenty more stories we have. But in order to move on, I'd love to hear a little bit about the Arizona 10v10 and for Tekken that took place over this past. I think it was not last week, but the week before, right?
Yeah. So it was the week
25th, I think.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about. I don't know how much you guys were involved with it, but like, what was the origin behind that? Was there some trash talk going on? Was there something in the Discord, or did somebody just say, "Hey, let's get this organized"? Like, who's the brains behind getting this organized? We'll start with WillGetPaid. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, so actually, the backstory for it at Combo Breaker, Sean was there. There was famously the Europe versus USA 10v10, which in Tekken, which is kind of a historical moment because, like, generally we don't get that many European players to come out to America. And ever since the COVID era began, and there's a lot of online events and stuff, we got to kind of watch Europe play in ICFC more, like frequently every Wednesday. And there's a good amount of trash talking, mainly from Europe to the USA, because I guess like we have seen ourselves as like one of the top regions along, right below like maybe Asia. But we think we're one of the stronger regions with good reason. And, Europe's also got like some amazing players. Obviously, like Ryan Hart is like the godfather of Tekken, super good to this day. And many like other players that, you guys might not have heard of, but like if you follow Tekken, you know them. But anyway, I feel like there's a bit of a chip on the shoulder there. So Europe kind of challenged us to this, and that it culminated in that 10v10 at Combo Breaker. And one of our local players, Cowboy Breebob,
That's a fantastic name.
Yeah, that's a great name. Shout outs to Bree. She was posting in our like local FG Tekken chat, and she was like, I want to do like a 10v10, Tucson versus Phoenix, because we have a lot of newer players, especially now, and I think they kind of wanted to show who was like the strongest scene between the two of us, because it's traditionally at most tournaments it's the regular suspects. It's me, Sean, VMGF, Springtrap when he was here, Umber Witch, Sepulveda when he would show up, he would be up there. So it's like the kind of people you knew, but underneath the like top level players, there's a lot of stronger up and coming players too.
Sure.
And like there's people I didn't mention too. But anyway, that's how it came to be. Is Bree just wanted to have this exhibition, get people hyped, excited about Tekken in Arizona. And so then we kind of set it off. We collected like the interest. We got our teams together, and they found this awesome venue in Tucson. It's a brewery, right?
Thunder Canyon Brewery, baby, downtown.
Oh, nice.
Congress.
Cool.
Yeah, great venue. And so that's what we did. We did it down there. So
Okay, cool. I was gonna say, I first heard of it actually because of John. Like he posted a picture from TGZ saying that there was a 10v10 qualifier, and I was just like, qualifier for what? And he's like, oh, Tucson versus Phoenix, and I was like, oh, like they're actually organizing something themselves. So I'll let you explain a little bit about that on your side, Steven, a little bit. But Sean, like, how did you guys go about setting up your team? Because to be honest, like, I couldn't name you 10 players from Tucson that played Tekken. Like, I don't know if I could barely name 10 players that play Street Fighter. So it's just like, how did you guys go about assembling your team for the Tucson side?
Well, we do have we had a pretty good scene, absolutely, especially during right before COVID. We had a great venue, which we had like the community center attached to a police station. We'd have like big turnouts of 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 players, and sometimes we do like little for fun brackets and stuff. But it has definitely like quieted down. We lost some of our venues. Maybe with Thunder Canyon Brewery, we'll have a little bit something going back again. But for us to assemble the 10, it really just came down to a Discord message like, hey, all right, who's available? who wants to do it? We didn't have any qualifiers or anything. Like we fit 10 together, and then like 2 people had to drop out. Like, okay, now we gotta call in some favors. It felt like, because we have a lot of people that are play the game, that love playing the game, but maybe they're not the most competitive about it. Like they don't travel up to Phoenix for tournaments. They're not going to enter in tournaments. They like to hang out with us and play. And some of them are actually like really, really good and just have like this secret potential that but it's just not in the cards for them to nurture that or want to go forward with that. And that's fine. I think everybody should be able to play Tekken, play fighting games, play any game in the capacity that makes it the most fun for them. But we did bring a couple of people out of their element to come and play offline. And a 10v10 sort of scenario is it's much more than like a tournament. It's much more louder because no
Yeah.
matter who, you always have a dog in the fight. Even if you're out, like you have somebody to root for.
Yeah.
So we did got together 10 people and like, okay, well, everybody on this list has like been out to at least one tournament, so we felt that was a good representation of who competed, like who competes here. And it kind of like happened organically. Like we didn't have like a big like hangout, like all of us, hey, come train together before that. It was just hard to get everybody together. So on the day of the tournament, like, hey, yo, I haven't seen you in like 3 months, man. How you doing? Hope you still playing the game? Okay, because you're like up a fourth, so I hope you're still playing the game. And, yeah, it came down to the wire a little bit with us getting the squad together, but I'm very proud of our squad and who we did. But the tournament itself was a roller coaster ride. There was a lot.
We'll talk about more of the details there. I'm curious, John, like when you were at TGZ, like did you just ask somebody that was there? Like, did you see, did you just notice that there was a lot of Tekken setups and stuff like that? Like, how did you even like figure out that they were doing that?
Yeah, I was speaking with WillGetPaid and another gentleman who was kind of organizing the qualifier that they were running. I think
Thunderpants.
That was Thunderpants. I apologize.
Thunderpants, okay.
Yeah, and Thunderpants. I've met him before. He commentated for one of our Desert Duels matches. He's an awesome dude. And with qualifiers or 10v10s, there's always drama. There's always like
egos.
Who's going to be on the team, who's not going to be on the team. And so the curious thing for me was like in the past when I've seen 10v10s or 5v5s or anything like that, there's usually a captain, and then the captain would basically pick people and then take all of the ire from the community on whatever picks that people disagreed with. But WillGetPaid, you could probably explain it better than I could. You guys didn't do something like that. You went a little deeper, right?
Yeah, sure. So myself and Joe Thunderpants were the co-captains for Phoenix. Just kind of just came to that conclusion. Basically, similarly to what Sean was saying, the main issue was going to be how to get 10 people from Phoenix that can guarantee they're going to be at this event, that Saturday, block off that weekend. We had a bit of some luck in that there's just a lot of Phoenix players, and a lot of like good players, so that was a blessing and a curse because there was like more than 10, right? So like, okay, how do we whittle it down? Obviously, I could have just picked a bunch of other people, and that would have been that. Like, just, hey, you, can you make it? Cool, you're coming. We're going to do this. But my philosophy, the moment Brian mentioned doing this, I saw it as an opportunity to get the scenes reignited, excited, started
on
doing
all
stuff
levels
again. Yeah. And so I was like, you know what? Why don't we do a qualifier so that like, everybody just kind of comes out and we have like a civil war. Like we just try to like fight it out for who's the best. And it was supposed to be like a win-win because we get the team and then no one can say shit about like, oh, well, why was so-and-so in the team? Because they beat you, right? Like because and originally I think my original math was like, we'll just do like round robin or something, and like whoever gets to 4 wins like is pretty much guaranteed, and then after that we'll do differentials if you lose like games to do all that stuff. But long story short, it ended up just being like we could barely get 10 people to show up to the event because first we were going to do it the week before, but I had like a personal issue like where I had to travel and I was out of town, so I couldn't go. And then it kind of like, we didn't do it that weekend. And, Joe was super awesome. Like while I was gone, he was wrangling everything and making sure everybody would show up. So yeah, we just got there on Friday, and he made this awesome like Google Sheet type thing where everybody put in, the contact information, if they were available, if they could drive. So like we were doing the logistics for the team because we wanted like Bree, who was kind of the organizer, to just focus on what she could do, like venue, getting the promotion ready, and just trying to share the workload a bit. But yeah, so it just so happened that we basically only had like 10 people show up that day. So it was like the qualifier, but it was like, congratulations, you made it. Like you came, so you're pretty much in. And then we just played casuals, which that was kind of the whole point anyway. It was just to get people to play.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it worked out. And then we got our team. We had a few like last second mishaps of people that were like, oh, well, I might be there late. And like, well, okay. And a couple people had to switch around, but we had alternates, so it worked out. So yeah, I can't complain.
Nice. So I wanted to go back to Sean. Were there any notable players that you were hoping we were going to play that didn't make it on the team for whatever reason, whether they just couldn't be there or whatever?
Yeah, well, I'm actually really happy with how the final 10 came out. Tucson's a little bit of we got a little bit of this enigma of our players because there's the people that come out and compete and go to locals, or that will travel to Tempe and compete, and then we also have like this one house that's out past golf links that just happens to have a former NA top 6 2016 Tekken champ and one of the best players from SoCal and one of the best Lily players, and it's 4 dudes and they're all tremendous at Tekken and none of them want to compete. And they're great. It's cool when they hang out and stuff. But we've kind of formed this group of like this, band of brothers and sisters that, that we're all traveling together and we all are showing up together. So yes, we could have had Project Runaway and Kane and Skip Silver and like these other guys who have been playing this game like on a like in some cases a world level for many years, but that we don't ever like we don't really see their faces too much. They're not like coming out to any tournaments ever. They just talked about that they don't want to. And some like Project Runaway couldn't come because he was in California. There was some things going on with that. So yes, we could have like stacked the team a little bit with some of those guys, but I'm very happy with exactly who our 10v10, because it was a great representation of like the people who are grinding, who are like working really hard, playing constantly, who don't have very many opportunities to come out to Tempe. Maybe they don't have a car or they just live so far out. It's not convenient for them. And it's like, it is a 2-hour drive in some cases but they really like want to play. And they like express like, hey, I'm trying to learn how to play this game better. Like, okay, well, you need a stressful situation to really grind you down, to really refine your skills. Like this is going to be it. So let's get everybody on the team. And I'm very proud of the 10v10 of the 2022 Tucson Dirt Devils starting lineup, baby.
Yeah, actually, if I could underscore that question, Sean, were there any members of your team that you were just super over the moon to have on your team? There was their big shot. Can you name any specific folks?
Yeah, absolutely. There is somebody who's very new to the scene. He's a bit on the shy side. His name is Dez. Call him Desi. He plays Oscar, and he is a guy that he's only come out, he just recently moved here and he's only come out to a couple of events, but just playing him, I could tell like he has a lot of nerves, but this guy like spends a lot of time in the lab. Like he's learning all these very unique situations, setups. He's watching like you can kind of tell when you are playing against somebody in Tekken that are they doing like basic flowcharts, or have they seen some people at a high level play this character and they're emulating and they're forming some game plans. They might not have the skills or the nerves or just the calmness, the resolution to, do well in a tournament setting, but like there's some shine there. And, big shouts out, especially to Desi, to Saito, who is another young, like, I think he's only like 20 years old. He's been to a couple tournaments and he's trying to grind hard. He's like putting clips of himself in our Discord of like, check out this combo I just hit. Like, yes, I want to see more of that. Absolutely.
Those are the people that keep your community alive, really. Like,
yes,
they're the ones who light that fire.
Absolutely.
That's super cool.
And, I also had a big soft spot for somebody on the team, which was Mr. Quentin, who was my
Q-Dog.
big Q dog, my training partner, somebody that I used to play. Like, if you want to talk about the history of the Tucson scene, for 2 years, after the game came out, it was very hot, and then it's like all games kind of it dies down a little
simmers
bit.
down, yeah.
During that simmer period for 2 years, like at Mr. Heads, where we would meet up this bar on 4th Avenue, we would tell everybody, hey, come on down, come play some Tekken. We're going to have setups. And for 2 years straight, it would just be me and Mr. Quinn. We would show up like, hey, what's up, man? And we would just sit there, play for 4 hours straight, get up like twice, like, all right, see you next week. And it was just us just playing. Like, that was the Tekken scene in Tucson for a minute. It was just us playing this game with each other. And so for him to like come out, like he fell out of playing the game. He's a big Apex Legends gamer and, got into a lot of real life stuff. For him to come back out and like compete side by side with me just felt like so good. So good. So
Nice.
I'm very happy for that. I have to give recognition absolutely to I'm just gonna name all 10 people.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Well,
I got you. I got
The
you.
twins,
So,
Isaac and Xavier, who have like always come out to every single local, who are always playing with us and hanging out with us, and they just they're like paternal twins, where they're identical twins, so they look exactly the same, and they just are always playing with each other. And so when they do come out and play with us, it's like a new surprise. Like, y'all been doing some stuff with each other, y'all been learning. We also had Bree come out and play after organizing the whole event and doing working with the venue and doing all this stuff and getting the dates and everything to still be able to compete is very awesome.
Yeah, that's a rarity to have both the organizer be running the show and also be a competitor. That's a lot of pressure to put on somebody. So shout outs to her.
Absolutely. And then to round it off, we have my boy Marty Party. Marty, who's kind of like came in. He's like, if you were talking earlier about how when you first met me, John, that I was like this goofball, this energetic, like optimism, smile guy. Like, Marty is like the new Shaundude, cranked up. He's very, he'll say, he does have a penchant for saying some very dumb things, but he's, also has I can't fault him because he has a great heart. He really loves Tekken. He streams the game and he makes YouTube videos, and he, has a lot of heart for the game. He happened to decide to come out and goof off with a side character and immediately lose. But, that was his choice. That was up to him.
The call out. I get you.
He played with heart.
He played with heart.
As always.
A lot of this. Could have used a little bit more there.
Funny,
but, I'm not going to fault him. He had fun. He sat down on the commentary desk and was just having a great time with us. And so, the team was definitely excellent. And then, the only other ones that we have left would be like Bailey, who's stepping. He goes by Corbin Blue, Bailey Blue. He's a newer player as well, but he has been like really pushing. Like, he's trying to be like he looks at me and Steve and he goes, I'm coming after you. Like, Bailey at the 10v10 got on the microphone and said, "Will get paid. I'm calling you out right now to a money match." Like,
nice.
Like, that sort of chutzpah, that ganas that you're not going to get that very often. So you could just see his like rocket ship skyrocketing out. And also shout out to the homie Golden Boy for coming through. He is a king player. He doesn't come out very often. He's a big skater, but he had some surprises. I think he has had like a couple of like crazy tournament upsets, and seeing like these people that are normally just to hang out and like play a little bit, but mostly talk, but then they sit down and play and like, oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah, you put them in the pressure cooker and then they perform. And
absolutely.
To the best of their ability, yeah. How about we put the spotlight on Phoenix here? We'll get paid. Do you have any particular players that you were excited to see in action on the 10v10?
I mean, it really was my whole team, but specifically, I was really excited to see MCD play. So if you guys don't know who MCD is, he is like kind of a great study in sort of how the Phoenix scene, one of the strengths the Phoenix scene has. We just have a lot of people kind of come in and go because it's a larger city. MCD, I believe, is originally from the Midwest. He's a DOA, like he's actually a monster at Dead or Alive, so another 3D game. and basically he kind of would like watch Tekken, and he was like, "Oh, I want to try this," and so he did. And over the course of this year, he's just been doing really well, like just taking names at our locals. And he'll come to casuals every now and again, but obviously he plays other games, does other stuff. So I thought this was an excellent opportunity because I usually shot him out when he's at the locals, and he came down with us, and yeah, he played great. He plays a Lars in Tekken 7, very like anime-esque character. I like to say he's got like spiky hair and everything. He gets his own theme music in the final round. He gets his own theme music to come on and stuff. Very dramatic, yeah. But yeah, so like that was super exciting to watch him like bring his unique style to things. Another player for sure that I wanted to like see play because I play him all the time, but like he doesn't come out to everything is Dargan. Dargan was a bit of our dark horse, and it was funny because I was kind of smirking like the whole time because people I know who Dargan is. Obviously, I've run into him in online tournaments. Like I'll see him sometimes, but like he doesn't come to our locals all the time, so you might not know about him. But he's a Yoshimitsu player. He used to play Asuka.
Okay.
And the thing about Yoshimitsu players are they're some of the most eccentric, but most like studied players in Tekken, because to play Yoshimitsu to his absolute potential, it's like a mythical thing. You sort of have to think about the game as if it's like a different world, right? Because Yoshi has all these like super unique things. Like Yoshimitsu, he's weird, and he's designed specifically for people that think in a weird way. It really is. So anyway, but Dargan, I play him all the time, and I'm like, man, I can't wait to see him. So I actually sent him up kind of early against some of Tucson's big hitters because I was like, he's beaten me like a lot of times in casuals. So I was like, you know what, you got this, man, and he killed it that weekend. So super super fun to watch him play.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I guess we're kind of getting into battle results now too, right, Benny?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was I went through and watched pretty much most of the stream. I put a battle log together of basically the different rounds: round 1, round 2, round 3. So I guess we can kind of just break it down from there. So from round 1, you mentioned Dargan as being playing really well that weekend. That's who started it off for Phoenix, like you said, with the Yoshimitsu, and then played Marty Party.
My dark horse.
I didn't listen to a lot of the commentary. I had to keep it a little bit quiet on my end here, but so they started out, and I guess for round 1, like Phoenix kind of dominated that round 1, like real early. Looking through things, like it was like Phoenix. Dargan won the first match. Then the second match was Mr. Quinton, who you guys both had said was one of the top Tucson players. And then after that, Phoenix ran off 4 more wins. I might butcher this name. It's Nero Asamiya.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. Playing Lily, that ended up beating Cowboy Brebop, the Lily player that helped organize. Yeah, the Lily Mirror. And then you had Beanie Stugotz playing Brian, and then beating Bailey Blues Nina. Let me see, what do we have here? Yeah, and then after that, it was Thunderpants coming through, beating Golden Boy, then Lunatics with beating Saito, and then Sean hits up to the plate and finally gets Tucson back on the board. So a little bit with the round 1, like how are you feeling at that time, Sean, in terms of your team? Obviously, like you're seeing your voice drop like flies, right? Like you guys at this point, you guys are down 5-1. Like how are you feeling at this point in terms of the 10v10?
Oh, sugarcoated a little bit, Benny. Oh, I mean, yes, the first round we go up. It is 7. Phoenix has 7 wins, and we have 3. And it's me, Mr. Quentin, and Desi, who's that character, that guy I was telling you about earlier, the lab monster, the guy that I'm seeing a lot of promise in. And I just huddle us up like, well, all right, guys, we're gonna have to really buckle down. Brain trust now. And
real quick, Sean, for our listeners, so 7-3, right? So does that mean 3 people were remaining on your team? The other 7 that lost were no longer able to play?
Yeah, I was gonna
Yes.
say let's roll
Single
it back.
elimination.
Let's roll it back to where we're at. So it was 1-5 at that point, and then you get to step up to the plate and you get to play Nathan's Kunimitsu. So yeah, going into that particular match, like how are you feeling like for your team and for yourself?
Like it's rough because seeing everybody like kind of fall, and I'm sitting there. I'm definitely the loudest one in the room for Tucson. I am getting people excited, getting them going like, come on, we can do this. And it was actually a random draw to determine the first round.
Yeah,
Like we put all of
blind
our names in a
picks.
little hat,
Oh,
and
okay.
and it actually ended up being like really dead even with a lot of really great, very close matches. Nero
Mm.
and Bree, Bailey and
Beanie,
Beanie, Marty and Dargan, Desi and
Shake.
Sheikh
Yeah,
Zula.
yeah.
Yeah.
Desi was after you. Yeah.
And so, like, the really close matches. So I'm looking at it on paper, like, yes, we can do this, 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 this. We can really have a strong start. But something about Phoenix was just a little bit special that day, and they just start taking our numbers and just taking us. And so I get to play. I'm up against Nathan, and I haven't played against Nathan very much at all. I have him like on Steam, I think, and like we've played a while ago. I have not played him since he picked up this new DLC character at all. But like, okay, I'm just gonna trust my instincts, trust the things that I've labbed, and also like try to get a little bit of that that heat still in there. Like we are still in this. So I'm playing and I'm pulling like I'm being the Fred distance. I'm taunting. I'm doing like big sweeps. I'm doing 10-hit combos. I'm doing like kind of goofy meme things. So like to keep it lighthearted, to really in a way kind of show like, hey, we're not sweating, even though like I'm drenched in sweat right now. The whole team is like we're struggling here.
I'm
So,
curious, what was behind the cat pick as opposed to Marduk? Do you just not like Cooney Marduk, or?
I wanted to be able to step, and I knew I had a feeling that since you are like the generals over there, and people are gonna know like it's very well known like Shaundude plays Marduk, and there's just Marduk is a unique character in that he has unique mechanics. Like
Yeah.
he picks people up and he tackles them, and it turns it into like a mini game, like Tekken bowling or something. Like you have to kind of guess where he's gonna punch and guess, and there's unique mechanics that no other character has. So you just have to kind of know that. Steve is a master; he knows all about that. So I knew that people were on Phoenix were gonna be like ready to kind of rush and hit Marduk's weakness is being rushed down. People are gonna kind of rush it down. And so I had just been playing like online a ton. Katarina. I've been doing ICFC Katarina, getting 17th place continuously. Katarina, Tekken God Prime, Katarina, higher rank than my Marduk. Like I got TG, like Marduk's just at TTG right now. Katarina's at like Tekken God Prime, which is pretty much the highest rank without like the ultra crazy sweat thing.
So you have been practicing. This wasn't like a random character that you just decided to go easy
No,
on somebody
and
else.
it's
You've
also
been
my first
practicing hard.
character.
Huh?
Okay,
Yeah.
that was his first character. Yeah.
Marduk came out as DLC like 2 years into the game. Katarina was my first Tekken character. This is my first Tekken game and my first 3D fighter. So
Sure.
And I kind of wrote her off a little bit. She's kind of, she's simple. She's like she's not gimmicky, but she just does the same thing. Like her best combo is she mashes the same button, circle, 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 over and over again. Like it's not hard to play her, but I don't know. I just had been getting some success. I've been seeing, Junya and Genghis Dawn and some other people like bringing this very simple character like to the forefront, getting top 8s at CEO and getting like big top 8s like. And I'm looking, I'm like, I play that same way. Like I've been playing Katarina that way. Maybe I should try to bring it back with my new level of like patience and a little bit of awareness. And so I was feeling really good.
You brought her back for that reason. I like that.
Yeah.
So did you play her for like all your subsequent matches, or like what
I think it was like
next?
half and half. For the first round, I was definitely playing Katarina like almost all the way through, just because I knew like once you kind of get like a sense. Especially because all the people from Phoenix, I've played all of them so many times. So I already have like a little bit of a dossier built up in my mind of they like to mash after this sort of situation. They like to press here. And Katarina, she has the fastest moves in the game, the fastest counter hit launcher in the game that like if I know the spots, I can just call them out. And so that was pushing me on to play that character. And, I sit down on Nathan, little nervous, little like I hadn't been playing any casuals or doing anything. I'm just like kind of setting up and like, okay, simple. Let's just sidewalk, like start stepping like crazy, start throwing out launchers, just try to, keep it light. not too strenuously heavy, because since I saw so many of the Tucson team members were down already, I was thinking like,
Gotcha.
oh, there's a chance I might be in for the long haul
Okay.
here.
Yeah. Okay. So I could see that. Yeah, for sure. So that's pretty cool. So after you had won, Desi comes up, wins their match against you said Sheikh Zula,
My
and
favorite
then
match
Will,
of the whole
yeah,
10v10, to be
yeah,
honest. I
and
watched that
then
back.
and then after that, Will Get Paid gets up. He plays, beats Xavier, and then is it Beaver? Plays the last match of round one against Riverman, wins that, and as you mentioned earlier, Phoenix goes up 7-3. So for you, Will Get Paid. Like at that point, obviously, I think you guys got to be feeling good.
Yeah.
So give us a little bit in terms of like round two. Like you guys said, round one was blind pick. How was
Yep.
round two organized for you? How was round two set up? We'll get paid.
So it was sort of similar to like double blind in tournament, where you got to like pick your character. You both tell the TO, and then those two you pick. It's the same thing, but with like players. And the other rule is, when you pick your character for the particular match, you have to stick with them. But you can change characters if you survive to the next match. So I was looking at it. I was pretty happy. I mean, because I was very confident in everyone that I picked, like to win against one or two other people in Tucson. And we'd had a lot of practice going in, and I do coach everyone up in the different matchups with what I can like bring to it. Like even Nathan, right? Like everybody that I did send up to Sean, I didn't just say, have fun, good luck. Like I would always tell them exactly, because I'm not going to feed them to the wolves, right? So I try to give them like my tips, obviously not as I would play them because they're not me, but just like things to think about, right? So like for Nathan, he's a very new player, like newer than Sean. Actually met him at the end of last year, but he's got like good execution and everything. So I was like, hey, just play your game. Put some. I did think he was going to play Marduk, so I was just like, just attack him. Don't let him play. And then when he was playing, I did notice like a few things that he was doing well. I was like, you need to keep going for like throws to throw Sean off, because like that's just a thing that's good in general. But I was like, you need to try to go for that and don't freeze up, because that's what he wants you to do. I was trying to get him to really just loosen up and play. And like I felt like he could have won, but at the same time, Sean brought it back. It was really good. And that kind of story repeats a lot as like we'll go over the other matches. But yeah, in the second round, that was kind of what I was thinking. I was like, after watching that, I was like, Sean's obviously the guy to beat on the team now. Everybody else did it. Like everybody else, I would say on my team, mission accomplished. Obviously, we did have a couple losses in the first round, but even Shakes lost to Desi. Like Shake played really well. There was just a little bit of lack of knowledge. Desi definitely had been doing some labbing. Like I was seeing him play, and I was like, okay, yeah, he knows what to do. And Shake, he was working out the nerves too, but like he's played me before, and like he's a very patient player to where it gets on my nerves. I'm like, because I play a counter hit character, sort of like Sean. I'm like, dude, press a button, please. Like, do I really have to open you up like this? And like, that's great. Like, it's annoying when you play it, but it's great when you send them out because you're like, he can play. So anyway, that match, I thought like he was gonna take it, but aside from that, I was just like, yeah, we kind of gotta just figure out how to beat Sean between the like 7 of us, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, going into round 2, my thought was, I spoke to the guys. I was like, who wants a shot at the big dog, right? Who wants to play him? So that was who was left. And I forget was
the very first match was Mr. Quentin versus Dargan.
That was it. That was the one that I was like, you guys aren't ready for this, because maybe some people thought I would play Quentin because we play a lot, or I would send someone else up, but I was like, I think Dargan is going to kind of rock this guy's world right now, because like when I play Dargan, you don't just, you have to play against him and his character, So yeah, I sent him in.
Did you know that? Like, did you have a good feeling of what the order for that second round was going to be? That was going to be Quentin, Desi, and then me last.
Yeah, I mean, I figured you wouldn't go first. Even if you did, as we'll talk about, like I did feel confident sending Dargan against you because he plays differently than me, and I know like in our matches, I know like what my weaknesses are when we play, including like the matchup. Like I play just my character, but Dargan doesn't. He plays Yoshimitsu, which is a very different matchup for Marduk and all these other characters. So it was like an option select. I was like, I feel confident sending him against either of them, and it just happened to be Quentin. So
Okay. Let's talk round 2 now. Then what happened? Because I keep hearing like as we'll talk about like what happened in the subsequent matches. Here.
Yes, yeah. So that was the start of round 2. Was Dargan beating Mr. Quentin, which obviously Steve, you felt really good about that. I think you guys would probably say that might have been an upset in a way because
Big
like
upset.
yeah.
Because from people that don't know Dargan and do know Quentin, which like it's a strange subset because like Quentin hasn't played in a while. Dargan it doesn't always come. So it's like I know who both of them are, but I'm ancient, so like of course I do. But I played Dargan enough recently to be like, yeah, like he's just very solid. And then like I know how Quentin plays, so I'm like Quentin's very solid, but he plays in a very straightforward manner, and Dargan destroys that. Like it just you can't do it.
I got you. Yeah. So after that, next person that was up was Beaver and then Desi. So how are you feeling about that match, Sean?
Well, I had a little crisis because I really had a good feeling that Beaver was gonna go up next, but I couldn't, like, it was a 50-50. Like Beaver's gonna go up next, or it's gonna be like Lunatics or somebody else. So I was like, should I go up so I can play against Beaver and not have Desi play against Beaver? And the reason I was thinking that is because Desi, he's very talented, but he's also shy, a little bit more reserved, quiet, and Beaver is like he's kind of the new loudmouth of the Arizona scene. Like he's landing combos. He's going like, sit the fuck down. Woo! Woo! It's my turn. It's always my turn. Like he's
he is
popping
up
off.
there, yeah.
Yeah, he's popping off mid-match. And I just knew, like, for Desi, who plays primarily online, that this is going to be, like, I know he can beat him. Like, if they just sat down, like, online, I could really see this being him. But I knew that it's going to stress him out a little bit. So I send Desi up thinking that maybe they're going to save Beaver for me, knowing that I'm going to go last. Because I've had some close sets with Beaver. But, he sits down and they're like, okay, Beaver, go up. And I give him this piece of advice that I've always given everybody in fighting, like competing, regardless of the game. It has nothing to do with the game. This is just good advice. If you are sitting down next to an opponent and they are like loud, they're like having a lot of motions, they're, like kind of like popping off, you have to look past that popping off, because what is really happening is that you are both nervous. This is a big match, and everybody's going to be nervous. There's no getting around that, no matter how loud he is. But anytime he's like yelling, or he jumps in his chair, you need to know that is not him like celebrating, thinking that you're trash and that he's better than you. It's him releasing pent up nervousness. He's nervous, and that's like just that is a common tactic for sports, for martial arts, for fighting games, to just have some sort of like outburst, a kia, something to get out there. So I told him, every time if he does that, you have to know that you're getting in his head. You're making him very frustrated. You're not making this easy.
Yeah. That's the whole Driftwood Benny Clapp thing. Like, it's nothing personal against you, but if I pulled out something and I won that match, like, I'm hyped. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't care who I'm playing against. Absolutely. So we'll go through a couple of these other things before we wrap things up. So at that point, Dargan had won the first match for Phoenix in round 2, and then Beaver won the second match. So that puts Phoenix at 9-3. So at that point, the only person left on Tucson's team is Sean. So Sean goes and plays Lunatics, defeats them. Then Nero Asamiya beats them, beats the Lily there. Then beats Beanie Stugotz. And then briefly here, we'll get paid. At that point, I figured I saw that you got up and you went to go play. And I like that approach because, like, I figured, you're the top dog. Like, I figured you probably didn't want us to wait till the end. Like, this was probably your opportunity. Like, I think you even said it on stream, was like, to try to kill the momentum, right? At this point, like, let me stop this now instead of waiting till the end. So, how are you feeling going up there? Going up at the end of round 2.
Yeah, like I felt I was in a pretty calm, like zen place. Like, you guys know, like I prepare a lot for any like game I play in. You remember when I played Street Fighter? Like I practiced a lot. So like when I was in tournaments, I don't even remember my placements at tournaments. I just remember after a while I started feeling comfortable, and then like people were actually trying to beat me, and then in this, obviously, like I practice against the characters of the people that I play a lot. So I play a lot of Marduk in training mode, and like I had specifically been practicing for Marduk a lot of the techniques I talked about earlier, like changing the input lag to PS4, because like Marduk's a big throw character. Like he's a grappler, but he also can attack, and his throws will like destroy you. Like he'll literally combo you off of his throws and kill you if you don't break them. Aside from the tackle too. And I realized I was like, man, I have to practice the timing of breaking throws in this environment, because when I do it on computer, like I just break them all the time. It's pretty easy. But then when I sit down and play in the tournament, I miss it. And I'm like, oh man, like this literally changes everything. So I had been practicing like that for at least a month. And so I was like, yeah, I'm pretty confident in the matchup. Like I know what I need to do. So I know it's going to be hard because Sean is good opponent. But I was like, yeah, pretty much it's up to me. Like I'm the captain. I have to beat him. It doesn't matter if it happens right now or in 2 matches. And so I was like, yep, I'm going to go up and do it. And I didn't do it, unfortunately, but I still played. I think I played pretty well, especially the first game. I came back down 2 rounds and brought it back. And speaking of like letting off a pop off to relax, I like finally got Sean himself to crack at the end, like to actually kill him. And I almost cracked again because I like dropped my combo because it was just like, the emotions flooded out, right? Like I got him to overextend finally because he's very patient against me. And I was like, yes, I launched him. And then I dropped my combo because I was just so excited, but I took it back anyway. And it's funny, if you listen to the archive, Thunderpants is so pissed at me because he's very critical of me because he's my rival now. Yeah. And so whenever I do dumb shit on stream, he's like, you idiot. Don't mess it up. And I'm like, oh, my bad, Thunder.
Yeah,
he was saying the heat of the moment. But it's all love. It's all love. But so that was my mindset. I was like, I can do this. I have to do this. And so, everything that happened after that match, unfortunately, Sean did a great job and addressed it, and I didn't win. And I was like, you know what? He might take it back. We might beat him, but at the end of the day, like it was my job to win. So I'm not going to let anyone else, feel bad if they lose to Sean when they play, because it's just hard to play against. But yeah, it's like you said, I was just like, you know what? I'm ready. Why put it off? I'm just going to fight him. So
that took me by surprise a little bit. I thought you were going to be last.
No.
I've had a couple of games to watch you play, and so I was like, in my mind, I was like, okay, I know how to approach this, but I don't want to give you like all of this warm up.
There's a point where like you can only gather so much data before like you got to cool him eventually. Basically, if he's on a hot streak, you don't want to let him keep riding that hot streak and getting even higher on his own fumes.
So basically, at that point, Sean beats WillGetPaid. It's 7-9. Tucson. Then Thunderpants, who you just were talking about, the one I remember that was the one thing I remember from the stream. Like when you messed up, he was just like, "Man, if you were gonna drop that, I'll never let you live that down." And so he goes up, plays Sean, he loses as well. So finally, we're at round 3, and it's Shaundude, who's just won 5 games in a row, and then he's got Dargan and Beaver. Sean, finishes up those 2, and Tucson ends up coming back and winning the 10v10. 10-9, which I thought was pretty cool. Like, he went through the gauntlet.
The boiler.
Yeah.
That was something. I barely stood up between
man.
matches.
It's like going through a loser's run, right? Like you have to like, the TO's like, hey man, we need to get through these matches. Go ahead and play. You beat one guy, the next guy's up. Okay, beat this guy. You're moving your way up, and you finished out the 10v10. with Tucson on top. So Tucson's got the bragging rights, I guess, because you guys were talking about maybe doing this once a year thing, which I think is pretty cool. I guess
so.
my last question was in terms of bragging rights. Obviously, you know, were you guys planning to do? Well, I guess the one thing that I think about is like uh, there's this thing in football. Like even when I was in Alaska, there was a guy that played at my high school, and then there was a guy he played at the rival high school, like and he ended up like passing away when he was younger. And now when they play for like they like bronzed one of his cleats or something like that, and they play for that. So were you guys thinking of doing something? Like I said, this is my last question. Were you guys thinking of doing anything like trophy wise, like a belt, something that you guys can like tote around to the tournaments and just be like, hey, this is us for this year, and then hopefully that motivates Phoenix to be like, you know what, we're gonna get that next year.
I would love it. I would love it.
Yeah,
Marty
I
makes
think,
art. Make another trophy.
Yeah, we do have some talented people in the scene. I know Stunder is big into football, so he understands that too. And he suggested it be something like very menial, like somebody's dirty sock or something stupid, because that's what they really are. That's what they are in football. It's like, oh, this horseshoe from my horse that died before the game. A horseshoe. That's literally what it is. So we'll have to find something that is. Well, maybe we'll find something cooler than that. But yeah, I think we'll do that.
Maybe it could just be something like from that particular venue, because that was this is a start, right? Maybe it could be like a glass keg or something like that.
A grilled cheese. Nice
just something from that particular venue. So I just want to say this was great talking to you guys. I figured that we were probably going to run a little longer than usual, having 4 of us total here, but it's been a pleasure talking to you guys about Evo and then talking about the Tekken scene. Definitely, it's been fun times for sure.
Yeah, and I hope we can have you back at some point to gush a little bit more about Arizona Tekken. I know we're only at the tip of the iceberg here, just for one single event. There's rivalries, there's all kinds of fun conversations in history and tech that we can talk through on the podcast too.
Absolutely. Steve and I have a really wonderful rivaled storied history of, one person like us always like jockeying each other for a position. Like for 3 months, it'll be me on top. And then for another 3 months, like I can't beat Steve. And then I'll have a breakthrough and just, we are always
it's like a Goku and Vegeta thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
It really is.
And at the top of it, it just keeps us growing, the two of us. Like, so when it's like, okay, now we put away our rivalry and we like go play online, like an online tournament.
We play in a big tournament, then it's like people like, oh, it's those two guys from Arizona, right?
Yeah.
To the point where now the newer players are like wondering like, oh, like, are you guys going to this event? Or we have new players like Bailey or like TJ that are gunning for us, and it's fun because it's like, oh, okay, so now you guys have the fire to play. The question is, are you ready to like do what you need to do to win? So
sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Very cool. Well, we're looking forward to talking to you all again soon. Next week, our next episode is going to be on Thursday. I believe it's August 11th. And do you want to announce who our guest will be, Penny?
So our guest next week on Thursday is going to be Scott, aka Saber AZ. We're going to talk to him. Kind of brainstorming what we're going to talk about. There's definitely a lot on we could talk about him especially being one of the OGs, and then we did want to talk a little bit about Evo with them too, because John's going to be coming back from Evo. Scott's going to Evo as well for the first time in years, playing a bunch of side games, old man games as we like to call them. So definitely looking forward to that. So yeah, that'll be happening next Thursday. We're going to start airing on Thursdays going forward.
Yeah, once a week from then on. So be prepared for a lot of podcast episodes coming up, and we'll be sure to have you all again soon.
Woo, content.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate
it, guys.
Before we go, any shout outs or anything you'd like to promote on the stream here? Or where can we find you? What are your Twitter handles?
Go ahead, Sean.
Barely use the sucker. I don't even have it installed on my phone, but I maybe might check it, get an email notification that somebody tweeted me at Sean Oyekawa. I have a dead Twitch page as well. Sean, you can find it. I bought the domain of Shaundude.com, so you can just go to Shaundude.com, find me there. And shout out to my girly Umbra Witch, Luna. She
Oh.
sometimes streams as well. She's a better Tekken player than I, so you should go check her out. And yeah, if you're in Arizona, come to a local, come to a scene. We'd love to see you.
Nice.
We'll
Glad
get
you
paid. Any
will.
shout outs?
Yeah, definitely. Shout outs to the entire Arizona scene, especially the Phoenix scene. I see you guys up and comers. You're coming for the for the top spot. You got to get through me first. Get to practicing.
That's
And
right.
speaking of which, oh yeah, I mean, of course, big shout out to my boys VMGF and Springtrap. Unfortunately, they're not Phoenix anymore. They both traveled. They had to go for work and stuff. But I love those guys. Can't wait until they come back to visit. And also wanted to point out TJ the Beast. He's been doing character breakdowns with like pros on his Twitch. Twitch.tv/The Beast. THABAZZT or ZTT.
Okay.
Can someone write that in the chat?
Yeah, so yeah, funny about that. Just real quick, yeah. So Sean was actually gonna be on his stream today. I think he was doing a breakdown of Marduk, and due to the mix up that we had with our scheduling, we had to push things to Tuesday. So we appreciate you taking the time away from that to again be with us, and accommodate us for at least this week.
Yeah, no problem. And you can check out detailed I did like a video of how to beat Marduk on his stream. So that's on his VODs. If you're tired of losing to Shaundude's Marduk, you should take a little peek at that.
And as far as my socials, you can find me on Twitter at Mr. WillGetPaid. And on Twitch, who knows, maybe I'll start streaming again eventually. But my Twitch is just twitch.tv/WillGetPaid. And yeah, that's about it for me.
Cool. Well, that about does it for our show this week. So thanks again to our two fine gentlemen for coming on and explaining some Arizona Tekken to us.
Yeah.
We will all talk to y'all later.
Yeah, thanks guys.
GG's.
GG's.
Thanks again, John. Sign out. I got some salmon crackers.
Yeah. I think mine's still up. Okay, you were making